The Joe Rogan Experience.
The Epstein stuff is so crazy because when Kash Patel was on here and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work because there's nothing I can. The guy's saying there's no tapes, there's no video. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows it doesn't make any sense. And then he didn't know about the Michael Baden stuff, the autopsy stuff, where it showed that he had 3 broken bones in his neck, which never happens when you hang yourself. Even when you like leap from somewhere with a rope around your neck and it snaps your neck, you never have 3
and he's
broken
in a prison
bones.
cell. He's not launching himself off the first floor balcony.
The whole thing was nuts. And then he's like, well, we have a film. We're going to release that film. And the film has a fucking minute missing from it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think we're babies? Like, what is this?
Also, you got people, including Dan Bongino, right, making bank for a couple of years talking about how awful it is, and we got to get this shit, and this is a huge conspiracy, and then you release a 2-page memo that says, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, because you're walking by your bedroom window and you see a little laser.
Yeah,
red laser moving across your chest.
But it really is. It's so look. You know me. I'm not a conspiracy guy by
you
nature.
Are today.
But I am today. Today, I'm fully on board with this shit.
Everybody's in today.
Yeah. No. But they're actually doing right as we speak. And I find this fascinating. Is that the Assistant Attorney General Todd Blanche is down in Florida for an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. Right? And she's serving 20 years in a Florida prison for sex trafficking. Right?
To who, though?
What's that?
To who?
Well, he's down there to interview her.
But I'm saying she's sex trafficked to
who? She was a co-conspirator of Epstein's, right?
But don't you have to have a person who you're sex trafficking to?
Exactly. And they talked about the victims somewhat during her trial. It was it was a very difficult trial in the sense of, they're trying to protect certain victims and others were coming forward. But, my surprise was nobody from DOJ has ever, according to her legal team, nobody has ever interviewed her from DOJ, right? So, Department of Justice. So this is the first time the Department of Justice, you're telling me, and meanwhile, up on Capitol Hill, you got Democrats like Adam Schiff and others going, we have got to release these fucking files. They had 4 years under the previous administration, right? Yeah. Look, everybody's fucked in this situation, but they had all that time to do whatever they wanted to do. And nobody, up until this point, apparently, has talked to her. Now, some folks on the legal side are saying, well, look, if she had anything interesting to say, she would have said it during the course of her trial, right, to save herself or to cut a deal.
No.
But now
I don't think so.
They'll
kill her.
Yeah, well.
The smartest thing for her to do is to keep her fucking mouth shut, which is what she did.
Right.
They put her in a cushy prison where she could do yoga.
Yeah, yoga in prison. That doesn't sound good.
Here's one of my favorite ones. I'm gonna send you this, Jamie, because somebody tweeted this, and it's just so perfect. And it just shows you how crazy this whole thing has been, like, from the very beginning. This is someone tweeted this from The Atlantic, and this is what's funny about this. Check this out, Jamie. So it's these fucking people. It's like they all knew her. They all knew him. So many people knew him and knew her, and they're all pretending that they didn't, and no one knew it. Check this out. This is The Atlantic says. Go up, Beggar, so we can see it. So we can see the quote below it. Below it.
I'm trying. I zoomed.
No, go back.
No, I know. I zoomed.
There we go. I can't read it. There it goes. This is what The Atlantic posts. If the Epstein scandal teaches us anything, it's that America needs a dedicated and decently funded group of people whose job it is not to just ask questions, but to find answers. And then this guy, Sean Davis, posts, the woman on the right is Ghislaine Maxwell. She trafficked children for Jeffrey Epstein. The woman on the left owns your magazine. This is so fucking wild.
Yeah.
Just that alone is so wild that they would have the balls to post that. We need dedicated journalists, not just people asking questions, which is like, for sure, an attack on podcasts. Like, listen, you guys didn't do shit.
Yeah.
You didn't do shit. So just the fact that we're just asking questions along with that, or is this a knock on the defunding of PBS, which is essentially a propaganda network for the Democratic Party?
Yeah, which is now being apparently, we'll see if that happens, but apparently being defunded. But yeah, look, everybody's worried now, right? No, at first it was like, okay, again, I go back a handful of years. Nobody was pushing for this, right? Because you got people from all sides probably on whatever that list looks like, whatever that Epstein file looks like, whoever was involved. You got people from all sides of the spectrum here going on. And so everybody's worried. So it looked like, all right, there's kind of this bizarre bipartisan moment where we're not going to push for this, really. We're not going to make a big effort here. We're not sending anybody from DOJ. The Dems aren't, during the Biden administration, calling for the release of the files. Now, all of a sudden, they smell, blood in the water and a particular, political motivation here. So let's get these files out. And, nobody's going to look good from this. But I would caution some, just because a name might be in a file, no matter whose it is, right? Doesn't necessarily mean there's nefarious activity. It could be like any police file, right? That says, okay, the individual stopped at this particular location and this person was there. Doesn't mean they're connected to something awful. They weren't fucking underage girls. Maybe they were if they're in the file, right? But I'm just saying there's a lot of people probably in that file that are going to be named, if it ever comes out, who may or may not have been engaged in illegal activity. But just release the goddamn things. The Epstein situation is going to be so disappointing to so many people now because I have this theory that nothing ever gets done in Washington, D.C., right? Investigations go to die there. Nothing ever happens. There's never any real consequences of any nature. And we got all sorts of things happening right now, right? So the Epstein case is just one of them. But right now, you've got the Dems focused on Epstein because, they see there's just a good opportunity here to go after Trump, regardless of who else is in the files, right? And the Dems, I think, were worried for quite some time and didn't pursue it because, years back they were thinking, okay, Clinton's going to be embarrassed. We don't want that. Right. So, again, my point would be just release everything. I don't understand how, if you just look at the way that they handled this logistically, whoever thought, because the mob wants to eat, right? And they've been throwing red meat to the mob about Epstein files now for years.
It's part of how they got elected.
Right. And so whoever in their communications group or in their strategic thinking arena in the administration thought, that we can get away with just saying there's nothing to see here, they should be fired, right? Because there's no way you can satisfy this mob. And now the mob is oddly bipartisan because it's got the Dems and it's got, part of the base of Trump in there. Yeah. And they're all, screaming to have this. God damn it, just release this shit. Otherwise, this is going to be around like Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy. And
well, that's what's crazy. They did release more Martin Luther King documents, which is really crazy. Like, why are you holding secrets about the murder of one of the most beloved historical figures of all time from 1968?
Part of that is a family request. Yeah, part of that's a family request. The family has asked, in the past on a number of occasions, they really don't want some of this because some of it's salacious about, Martin Luther King, which doesn't take away from everything that he did, right, as a leader of a cause and a movement. But some of it is,
extramarital affairs.
Yeah.
Things along
so
those
there's
lines.
been some push to be concerned about that. But yeah, now do the Epstein files.
Well, they'll do it in the same amount of time, 56 years from now.
Yeah.
Just like they did with him. It's 56 fucking years later they released this stuff.
And we're still not any closer to, I mean, again, I don't want to disappear down that rabbit hole, but we're still not any closer with Martin Luther King. I'm, again, not a conspiracy guy except today, apparently, but there's shit there.
Well, you've said multiple times that if there's one that you think looks really bad, it's that one.
It's that one. But I going back to, I know I'm bouncing around here, but going back to the Epstein thing, I don't understand how they handled this so poorly, right? For Pam Bondi to come out and talk about the files and oh my God, and then like within a blink of an eye, they come out with this bullshit Sunday night memo saying there's nothing to see.
How could there's just a lack of coordination?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
that makes sense.
I think it's a messaging problem is always kind of a key element of the Trump administration, whether it's this one or not. And now look, that's not I'm not knocking a lot of the policies. I like a lot of the policies that come out of this administration. This one and the previous, the first administration. But I'm just saying, a hallmark of a Trump administration is the ability to have a self-inflicted wound, shoot yourself in the foot because of messaging usually, right?
Right.
So I think they've done it again, and I don't see how they walk this back. They're trying to, I think, with this interview with Ghislaine Maxwell to say, look, we're trying, we're talking to her,
But how does Pam Bondi say we have thousands of hours of footage, and then Kash Patel says we don't have anything that you're looking for?
Yeah.
And then Tim Dillon said he has lunch with J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance says that 10,000 hours is commercial pornography.
Right. Yeah. You think this freak show of Epstein wasn't like, it didn't have hidden cameras or wasn't taped and shit? Or what? I mean, come on.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing about that house they had in New York City, which is, by the way, for sale. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah, nobody wants to buy it. Like, you want to buy Epstein's house?
Do the cameras convey?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you got to gut the walls. How are you going to know
that's
what the
right.
fuck is in there?
Yeah.
Imagine you're
Yeah.
walking around your house naked and you think that the CIA is or your organization, or whoever it is.
To be fair, the agency's got a
Mossad.
lot of hours of videotape of me walking around naked.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But Mossad, whoever it is that was involved in this intelligence gathering, I mean, I'm just guessing.
Right,
I have
right,
no
right.
idea.
Yeah.
But there's fucking pinhole cameras all over that house.
Yeah. Well, you have
Maybe they
you have
took
to
them
start
down.
from that perception, right? Because again, if anything else, you're just being naive if you think, no, there's nothing. Again,
You got to
God
take
damn
it
it.
down
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
bare beams.
Yeah.
What do you think that was all about? Who do you think was involved in that? Do you think it was the Mossad? Do you think it was some rogue intelligence agency in America? Was it a coordinated effort?
You know what? I know there's there's a lot of talk about did he have some sort of intel connection, right?
Right.
That from my perspective, it's complete speculation. But I will say, like from an operational perspective, I have no idea. Was it Mossad? Was it anybody? Who knows?
Right.
But from an operational perspective, if you see a guy like this who's super connected and all the way back to 2008 was like his first trial, right? So he's had a long history of these problems. But if you know that he's kind of engaged in a variety of things, as an example, if I'm Chinese intel, right, and I just read the goddamn entertainment news, and there's these rumors and allegations of high level people flying off to his island, I'm going to think that's interesting because potentially if I could get an accessed source there, if I can get somebody right inside that operation, whether it's Ghislaine Maxwell or whether it's Epstein himself, whether it's somebody who's just on the outskirts of it, maybe I'll start picking up some pretty interesting leverageable information on people that maybe I want to influence. Right?
And it's so funny to me that it's always comes down to like carnal needs and carnal desires.
Yeah.
It's always sex. Because these guys, when you get to like this Bill Gates level and Bill Clinton level, you can't just go pick up gals at the bar.
Yeah,
You know
it's a
what I
little
mean?
tough. Yeah.
So
yeah.
if you're a super famous super freak, and you like chasing skirts, but you can't do it. Like, what do you do?
Well, you do what he did, right? Which is you get somebody to procure for you, which apparently was primarily Maxwell's job.
Yeah.
And she's out there, and she was described, usually as his girlfriend, but she was clearly operating as his pimp or whatever the female version of a pimp is.
Curator.
Curator. Yeah, it's a curator.
Yeah.
And so he's, she's out there doing that. But look, again, I can't speak to, the rumors about him working for one intel agency or another. But I will say, if I'm working for an intel agency and I see something like that, I might find that of interest, right?
Oh, for
and then
sure.
I would definitely go after somebody to see what's going on. Just if for no other reason, then again, maybe it's a opportunity there.
Well, it's the easiest connect the dots puzzle
Right.
of all time.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
rich, powerful people and hot chicks and probably drugs.
Yeah.
And cameras.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and I tell you, the Russians love nothing better than, the truth. The reality is, in terms of recruiting an asset by using blackmail is tough, right? You gotta that window starts closing immediately, right? In terms of their operational usefulness, right? Because there's a lot of issues there, right? You're blackmailing somebody for their cooperation. At some point, that's going to go south on you, right? It's not like you've recruited somebody for ideological reasons, right? Or
Right.
even something as straightforward as like they need the money because their kid's sick or whatever it may be. So blackmail's right. But having said that, look, the Russians in particular love that, right? And Chinese intel, they'll do whatever works from their perspective. the agency, again, people are going to say that's bullshit. The agency tries, the blackmail is never really ever on the table as an option because it always leads to a problem. And sometimes those problems can be very, very bad. In terms of,
in what way? What do you mean?
well, the asset will turn on you, right? Next thing you know, you've got an agent working now, a double agent working for the other side, right? Because they're so fucked over by the fact that they've been blackmailed. And at some point, they lose their shit. They decide to roll for the other side.
But aren't you like constantly monitoring them and looking at their phone?
There's only so much. No, not really. There's only so much you can do, right? In terms of maintaining, particularly with a hard target, particularly with an asset who's in a difficult or challenging environment, for us, and you've got limited access to them, whatever it may be. So you're really relying on clandestine communications. You don't have a lot of face-to-face meetings. And at some point, you never know when things are heading south, right? And then the next thing you know, that's the operational reason for trying to avoid blackmail, right? Has it ever been done? Well, sure, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't been done,
of course,
but some services go to it much quicker than others do. Yeah.
And which services?
And well, again, the Russians are primary users of something like that. Because they've got a shotgun approach. Yeah, Israelis have been known to do that in the honeypot operations that they'll do and other things. But the Russians throw a lot of shit at the wall and see what sticks. Right? It's very much a shotgun approach. Right? And honestly, sometimes that can work. Right?
Wasn't that kind of, if you thought about this island, if you're bringing award-winning scientists, like famous people, politicians, world leaders, all to one place, you're basically throwing as much shit against the wall as you can.
Yeah.
And then you have all this stuff on all these different people, and they know it. And so then you just kind of like, wasn't there like some CEO that had to step down because he wound up giving Epstein, it was found out that he gave Epstein like $150 million that they couldn't explain why?
Well, okay.
Wasn't that the case, Jamie? So it's one of those things where there's obviously value in having all these people on your side.
Yeah.
But when you do get all this information on these people, like, what are they trying to accomplish with it? This is the question. Are they trying to get support for Apollo CEO to step down after firm finds more payments to Jeffrey Epstein? $158 million. He paid the convicted sex offender $158 million.
What does it? If you can you scroll down a little bit, Jamie?
Yeah. Is planning to step down as chief. I've advised the Apollo board that I will retire as CEO before my 70th birthday in July. Remain as chairman. Oh, he's going to remain as a chairman. New York Times detailed at least $75 million in payments and found that Mr. Black had paid Epstein $158 million in a 5-year period ending in 2017. He also lent Mr. Epstein more than $30 million, only $10 million of which he was paid back. Wow. So that's a guy that they got something on him.
I love this. Leon viewed Epstein as a confirmed bachelor with eclectic tastes. This was after his 2008 guilty plea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Christ. Mr. Epstein's advice was worth perhaps $2 billion in tax savings to Mr. Black, according to the report.
Right.
What the
But this
fuck?
is what Weinstein said. Eric said that this guy is not. He's not good. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like he wasn't a good financial advisor.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is you can say, okay, why was he collecting people around him? Why was he doing? I mean, was he keeping a file? Right, you still have to figure out what that file looks like. Part of it could have been initially self-preservation. Right? I mean, he's engaged in all sorts of activity. He gets a few people into it, then suddenly, he doesn't look so bad, right? And he's kind of protecting himself because now I'm surrounded by people who also have to keep that secret, right? So, but then the question becomes, is at what point is he or somebody in his little tight circle there? Are they approached, right, by anybody who's interested in some of these folks? Well, we don't know because we don't know who the fuck's in these files, right? So.
Or if the files even exist.
If the files even exist. And apparently, there's nothing in there, according to Pam Bondi.
And Kash Patel. The whole thing's nuts.
Yeah.
And then, have Bongino and Kash Patel saying he definitely killed himself. Like, what?
Yeah.
What? Okay, the level of convenience. It's so convenient that the guards were asleep. So convenient that the cameras didn't work. so convenient that years later you have a recording of the outside of the cell, but a minute is missing from it.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes?
Yeah, they found out it was like almost 3 minutes was missing. 2 minutes, like 53
It's like
seconds.
the missing Watergate tape.
Oh, I thought it was
Remember?
just 1 minute.
It did.
Yeah.
It started off as a minute, and then
Yeah.
people kept looking in the metadata, and like, okay, it was saved this many times, and it
Oh
was
my
actually up to 3
God.
minutes missing.
God. Okay.
That's plenty of time to kill somebody. 3 minutes is more than enough time. You
Oh,
go-
3 minutes, you could get a whole bunch of people killed by then.